There is a turning point in every construction project where we go from death and destruction to pulling the shape of the garden together. And we are there. We are there. We are at the turning point, and it is darn exciting. So I'm going to fill you in on a couple of progress updates. First and foremost being this bad mamma jamma behind me. We are finally ready to welcome in the greenhouse. It is making my heart absolutely sing because other than a few cuts, it is ready to receive the greenhouse, which, by the way, I'm several months out because it does take months to build these greenhouses. They're individually made in France, and then they've got to import them. So it's going to be a minute before I get my greenhouse. I'm probably going to have it arriving in January, but let me spin you around and I'm going to show you the update. All right, here it is. My goodness. What a thing to have a flat surface for a greenhouse and not have it undermining the foundation. This is huge, just huge. Back in that back corner, you will see I did bury some conduit, not knowing what I would want to bring into the greenhouse, but I just wanted to leave that area open so I'm not boxing myself in. But the guys did an incredible job. And you know, one thing that I've never talked about here is material choice with regard to the entirety of a property. And so one thing that we talk about is material language. How is the material speaking throughout the property? And so what I decided to do here was just use a very basic paver that you see in our front yard. So we begin tying the story of this property together. But all in all, it's looking so good. Next update. I think you all remember the stairs of death. I had fallen on them. Brian has fallen on them. The kids have slid on them. They were terrible. So obviously the stairs of death had to go. However, I want to show you what we did with the stairs because obviously we've got this beautiful basalt that I didn't want to just throw away. And I had that kind of like, do you remember that low mounded area of dirt that I was kind of envisioning, oh, maybe this could be a cool raised bed? Well, I finally did it. And what is so awesome and so divinely inspired in this whole entire thing is I was talking to the crew about how I envisioned a little vista, a little bench over here on this side of the property where I could look back on the studio and just kind of, I have some ideas for plantings, but I just thought, what a beautiful place to have a bench to actually sit and enjoy the property, because that was one of my takeaways from Camille Paulsen's garden tour, which I will link below if you haven't watched it. She's so incredible, but one thing she really has done in her garden is create these childlike moments to sit and enjoy her space and her hard work. So I was talking to the crew. I was telling them about my desire for a bench, and I want to show you what they made for me because it is so sweet. It actually makes me really, really emotional. And to think that we took the stairs of death and made it into such a joyful piece of my garden, I kind of want to cry. So obviously in the background is my neighbor's property, and we don't have the budget to do the chain link fence yet. That's going to happen, but look at this. This is what became of the stairs of death. And you want to see what this is? You guys, the crew made me a bench. I don't even know what to say, but GMC Landscapes, you guys are the freaking best. And they made your girl a bench. And to think that all of this beautiful stone was on our property already, we got to reuse resources and not have them go off to God only knows where. But we found this beautiful curved front piece of basalt that was actually one of the stairs going down to the parking pad. And it is now set at perfect bench height. And I'm gonna sit down for a second because I wanna show you what we're gonna look out upon. So here I am seated on my new little bench, and obviously the state of the garden is in disarray, but what I'm gonna have it look upon is the Casita. That's what the guys are calling it. My La Casita is gonna be right here. That's gonna be my little studio. And then coming in through to my vista right here is gonna be kind of a lower planting area that I'm gonna potentially work on with another landscape friend of mine. She's an incredible architect. She's an incredible designer. We're still in talks, but I really want to tag her in on this project. But to sit here and have a view of this beautiful planted out area, La Casita in the background, this is it, you guys. These are these little moments that are gonna just make the entire garden sing. Next update, the Casita is ready for its foundation. Okay, so this is going to be the most beefed up shed you've ever seen. This is going to be kind of the foundation of the walls, and then they've actually decided to pour a much wider footing. Because my soil is so sandy, they don't want this shifting or settling. And I am so glad I went with Elias doing a custom shed for me, because I just know that this is going to actually cut the mustard. This is actually going to be what I want, as opposed to something that's prefab that comes in. It's better customized to my soil conditions, my needs, and I basically got to spec out everything that is going to go in here, including the doors. And by the way, right there on that wall, I think that's gonna be the only wall that I'm gonna have a window on, because the window that is gonna be on this side right here, it is simply gonna look out onto the retaining wall behind me, which isn't like the prettiest view. And also I'm thinking I want an outdoor little, I don't know, I think I'm gonna do a little pathway on this side. Unsure yet, but it basically gets no light. This is where most of the light is gonna be coming from. And then of course we're gonna have full light doors on that side. And so concrete truck comes tomorrow and the pour is gonna take place. Now, challenge of the week for us was really actually squaring off the Casita, because what I realized with our property is the fence lines are not straight. The bunker over there, the bunker off the alley, is also not straight. And our property, instead of it actually being pretty straight, it's at a little bit of a wedge shape, which is interesting because we didn't expect that based on our site plans that we already had. So what we ended up doing is we tried a number of things. We tried squaring the Casita off to the property line, but then it looked crooked from up at the house. We then tried squaring it off to the bunker. Well, guess what? That isn't square either. I mean, welcome to old construction in the city. So what we ultimately decided to do is actually pull a line straight off the corner of the house and fashion it in line with the house, because that would actually be the most visually impactful way to square off the Casita on our property. Because what's so interesting is we have kind of like, we actually have a really gracious side yard up at the front of the house, but then by the time you get to the back of the house, I think we actually gain like 3 feet in that the southwest corner. So all that to say, it's been an adventure squaring it off, but we feel really, really good about where we landed. Because the other thing to think about is we aren't just looking at it from ground level, but we actually have a bit of an aerial view from up at our back door. So it needed to look right on the ground, and it needed to look right kind of from up above. So all that to say, we're ready for our concrete pour tomorrow, and I will be back with more updates probably this weekend. The concrete truck has arrived, and essentially what we did because of our site conditions here is we had the truck park up on the street, and then those lovely men at GMC, they brought the concrete down wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow down into this lower garden to fill the forms. One thing we did is we did have it scheduled for Friday because Elias was like, I want plenty of time for the concrete to cure and set up before we take any action on actually building the structure. But it is looking so dang good. Just looking at these forms, it is so incredible. And basically you can see right down here, because our soil is so sandy, they didn't want any of the forms pushing out. So they've installed these little braces that you see all along the edge because concrete is actually extremely, extremely heavy. And so essentially this, you guys, is the foundation. It's looking so stinking good. And then other little things that have happened is back here, we evened out this whole area. I might actually move some of this dirt maybe around by the bunker deck. And then that is where all of my oak leaf hydrangeas are being set up for the time being. Cross your fingers. They're going to be not planted for quite a little bit. And so I'm just hoping everybody survives over there. All right. Next update. If you guys remember, I had the crew cut the concrete kind of down at this weird ending as it came down into the garden. And originally I was thinking, okay, maybe we'll just add on 2 steps here because there's a weird drop. It doesn't come all the way down into the garden. So what I decided to do instead was actually create a little landing area at the bottom and then 2 proper steps going down into the garden. And what this is going to allow me to do is bring more of the material language of this property down into this lower garden. So when I say material language, what I talk about is like, what are the materials that we are using to tell the story of this garden? And how do they translate from space to space to space? So, as you know, redid the front garden a couple years ago, and I chose for that a really classic concrete, kind of just a very neutral paver. I didn't want to make any like giant statement. I knew I wanted blousy florals, and so for me, a large format, simple paver was the choice. And then to add just a little extra flair, we brought in black basalt treads to cap the stairs on our front porch. And this is kind of a fun trick because using natural stone can be really expensive, but using a tread gives you that air of elevation, the natural element without the massive budget outlay. So it's a trick that I use a lot for a client who wants that elevated look, but maybe doesn't have the full budget. So what we're gonna do is we are actually gonna bring that same black basalt tread treatment down to these lower 2 stairs. And so I'm going to spin you around and I'm going to show you what I've done. Okay, friends, here I am standing on the platform. You can see the lower step there. And essentially from there, we are going to install a winding path that's going to go towards our alley access. And then because I wanted this platform to feel nestled in place, this is where we installed our basalt wall. You guys, this used to be the stairs of death. And I cannot even believe we had enough natural stone on site to make this happen. The other thing we did is we did a little bit of future proofing here. And this is something to think about if you don't have the budget to complete a full renovation. What's really nice is to think about what your next steps are going to be and maybe what you're going to do the following year. And for us, we decided not to replace this fence right now. We wanted to spend our money on other things. We wanted it on the Casita. We wanted it on the greenhouse pad. And so what we did is we just took the leftover boulders and had them installed here. So it left a clear pathway right up against this fence. So when I pull out that fence post, for example, I know that sucker is set in concrete and I don't want to mess up my landscaping or my stone wall when I go to remove it. So what this does is it just allows me easy access and a way that I can come in here in the future and do that replacement when I have the funds to do so. This is just another vantage point here of this little landing. I'm actually gonna add a second step right through here. So it's beautiful, nice, gentle progression. We did go with an oversized 4-foot wide step. I feel like that's really gracious coming down into a garden. And then I picked up the corner of my platform here, and to make it feel really integrated, instead of having like a drop off there, which is normally how we got spit out into the garden. Instead, we took the leftover boulders from my stairs of death, and we have created a beautiful, beautiful sculpted raised bed. And then I'm going to swing you around this way, because what that's going to do is it's going to mimic the curvature of the pathway going down to the alley. So I have multiple layers of planting area, and that is just going to add so much beauty and drama to this garden. I'm going to get to work because I have more dahlias to move. The crew's going to start building this week. You guys, this is just all coming along so fast and furious, and it represents years of dreaming to get to this point. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. We have been trialing the powdery mildew spray. That's like the homemade concoction. It is working really well. So what we've been using is 1/3 or 1 part milk, and we just used whole milk, to 2 parts water, shake it up, put it in a spray bottle, and spray down the foliage. And what I'm noticing is, like, some of my dahlias are freaked out from the move, so I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of movement. But I have one dahlia up top. It's my Cozy Town Baby Cakes, and I'm going to show it to you because the new growth is looking actually free and clear from powdery mildew. Starting off with the old crusty foliage that freaked out from the move, but would you look at that? You guys, this is perfect. I am so excited. So I'm going to do another application just to keep it at bay because, you know, it's fall in Seattle, so powdery mildew is afoot. But the new foliage is looking darn good. So I'm going to keep at it here because I am liking what I'm seeing. I mean, I've got just a tiny hair of it right there at the bottom. But it's been about maybe like a week since I started the applications. And I'm going to start doing it every other day. And we're just going to see how far we get with getting some new foliage on these. And I just have to keep them cooking along. I just need the roots, the tubers to stay healthy. That's it. That is my only request of my beloved dahlias. Just keep those tubers happy. That is the update for this week. Next week, we are looking at framing, finishing the stairs, potentially, I don't even know if this is going to happen, but potentially looking at starting the pathways. Oh, and by the way, can I introduce you to someone really special? Remember in Home Improvement when Tim would talk over the fence at his neighbor Wilson? Well, I want to introduce you to Michelle. This is neighbor Michelle, and we're joking that at this point, we are kind of considering installing a gate here and calling it our wine portal. So happy to introduce another important fixture in our lives here on the block. But I will see you in the next one. And in the meantime, as always, say hello to your garden for me.